Formula One's biggest story isn't Christian Horner walking back into the paddock. It's the fact that the FIA president publicly admitted he already knows where Horner is going. That changes everything. When Mohammed Ben Sulayem says, "I know," this stops being rumour and starts looking like a political chess move already in motion. The real battle isn't about Horner's return. It's about which power structure he's about to reshape next. For 2 decades, Christian Horner built Red Bull into Formula One's most ruthless winning machine, collecting 8 drivers' championships and 6 constructors' titles. Yet, despite controlling one of the sport's greatest dynasties, he never owned a piece of it. When Red Bull's board finally decided his influence had become too powerful following the internal political storm of 2024 and the team's declining momentum through 2025, the architect of the empire suddenly found himself outside the gates. But there's a catch. Horner reportedly accepted a smaller exit package worth around £75 million simply to shorten his non-compete restriction. Why sacrifice millions unless the next destination was already worth far more? Then Ben Sulayem casually revealed he already knows where Horner will land. That isn't ordinary paddock gossip. It suggests conversations have progressed much further than anyone admits. So the question becomes, which team has quietly been preparing for Formula One's biggest management transfer? Before we move on, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on any of our latest videos. Because once we connect every clue, from contract clauses to political alliances, the destination of Christian Horner suddenly becomes far less mysterious than Formula One wants everyone to believe. Christian Horner didn't accidentally appear at Silverstone. Timing is everything in Formula One, and this visit was almost surgically precise. His first appearance came exactly after his shortened non-compete clause expired, meaning every conversation he had inside the paddock was now perfectly legal. That matters because Formula One operates through information long before contracts are signed. Deals are rarely announced when negotiations begin. They're announced when negotiations are already over. Then look carefully at where Horner went. Among the many meetings throughout the paddock, one destination stood above all others: Mohammed Ben Sulayem's office. That isn't simply dropping by to say hello after a year away. The FIA president later made perhaps the most revealing statement of the entire weekend. He will get back. Where is not for me to say, even if I know. Notice what is missing. There was no maybe, no if, no suggestion that Horner was merely exploring options. Ben Sulayem spoke almost as if the decision had already been made. That tiny choice of words completely changes the political landscape, because the FIA president is not involved in hiring team principals. If he already knows the destination, it strongly implies discussions have reached a level involving Formula One's wider political ecosystem rather than ordinary recruitment. Now comes the financial clue that many fans overlooked. Reports suggest Horner rejected an even larger settlement from Red Bull simply to reduce the duration of his non-compete agreement. From a business perspective, that decision makes almost no sense unless waiting carried an opportunity worth substantially more than the additional payout. Money wasn't the priority, timing was, and timing usually points toward ownership rather than employment. Remember Horner's own words earlier this year. He doesn't want to return as just a hired hand. He wants to return as a partner. That single sentence immediately eliminates several possibilities. Aston Martin? Perhaps emotionally appealing, technically complicated, politically unlikely. Look at Aston Martin's current structure. Lawrence Stroll controls the organisation. Adrian Newey now leads technical direction. Andy Cowell oversees the operational side. Adding Horner into that triangle would create overlapping centres of authority rather than a clean command chain. Championship-winning teams don't function through competing power bases. They function through absolute clarity. Even more interesting is Aston Martin's current competitive reality. Despite enormous investment under the new regulations, the team has struggled badly. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll finished over a lap behind the winner at Silverstone. One lonely championship point after 9 races is hardly the foundation expected from one of Formula One's biggest spending programs. Look at the footage. Watch the body language around the Aston Martin garage. Nobody behaves like a team preparing for another leadership revolution halfway through a major technical cycle. Instead, every conversation revolves around development, underside aero evolution, floor efficiency, mechanical balance, Hungarian upgrades, not executive restructuring. So while Aston Martin creates headlines, the technical evidence tells a different story. Now compare that with Alpine. Entirely different picture. A minority ownership stake remains available. That instantly satisfies Horner's publicly stated ambition of becoming more than an employee. Ownership changes everything. A shareholder doesn't simply manage race weekends. A shareholder shapes long-term investment, driver strategy, technical recruitment, infrastructure, even budget cap philosophy. Suddenly, Horner isn't merely building race cars, he's building an organisation. And there's another fascinating layer. Alpine desperately needs cultural stability. Over recent seasons, leadership changes have become almost routine. Different philosophies have pulled the team in multiple directions, preventing consistent technical progress despite enormous factory resources. That's exactly the type of environment Horner historically excels in. At Red Bull, success wasn't created by one clever aerodynamic concept. It was created through organisational discipline, clear accountability, rapid decision-making, relentless execution. Those are management advantages before they become engineering advantages. Now let's consider the option that might completely reshape Formula One. BYD. At first glance, it sounds ambitious. Then look deeper. Formula One is aggressively expanding commercially across global markets. Chinese automotive investment continues to grow. The FIA has repeatedly expressed openness toward additional manufacturers entering the championship. Ben Sulayem himself has openly supported expanding the grid. Now imagine combining one of the world's fastest-growing automotive companies with perhaps Formula One's most successful modern team builder. That isn't merely another midfield project. That's potentially the birth of an entirely new political force. Unlike buying an existing team, building a new organisation allows Horner to design every layer himself: technical philosophy, corporate structure, recruitment, factory culture, everything. No inherited politics, no legacy conflicts, just a blank sheet of paper. Ironically, that may be the one opportunity offering exactly what Horner has spent years quietly wanting: control. Complete control. This story isn't about one executive changing employers, it's about championship-winning knowledge changing addresses. Knowledge is Formula One's most valuable currency. Aerodynamic concepts can be copied, suspension layouts eventually become public, even clever software strategies are analysed. But leadership culture? That's almost impossible to duplicate. Christian Horner spent 2 decades learning how to transform brilliant engineers into relentless winners. Wherever that knowledge goes next, competitive balance follows. And perhaps that's exactly why Mohammed Ben Sulayem sounded so certain. Not because Horner simply has another job waiting, but because Formula One already knows the next chapter has quietly begun long before the official announcement arrives. So here's the uncomfortable question. Did Christian Horner leave Red Bull? Or did he simply spend 1 year waiting for an even bigger opportunity with real ownership and real power? Drop your prediction in the comments. Which team do you believe already has Horner's signature? And don't forget to subscribe, because this political chess match is only just beginning.